Hi, everyone, and welcome to this segment of Industry Insights by G2, which features hot takes and actionable advice from business leaders all around the world. Today, we are super excited to have a professional spotlight with Latané Conant, CMO of 6sense and author of No Forms, No Spam, No Cold Calls, the next generation of account-based sales and marketing. My name is Alexandra Vasquez. I am a senior content marketing specialist at G2, and I'm so excited to be having this conversation with Latané. So thank you, Latané, for joining us.
Thank you. I'm stoked to be here and hopefully share some tips with the audience.
Great. So in the theme of the G2T, all things that, let's jump into some fun icebreaker questions by starting with what's your favorite beverage?
Ranch water.
Oh, wow, that's a good one. And where do you find yourself enjoying this beverage?
I find myself enjoying it by the lake.
Seems very fitting.
Yes. Yes.
And what would you say was your first real job?
My first real job was I was a lifeguard, and then I taught swim lessons and I coached swim team.
Oh, that's awesome. That's perfect for our next question because I'm sure you learned a lot in those roles. So what were some of your best time management hacks that you've learned in your career?
Well, I loved what I did with teaching swim lessons, I would line up every lesson for 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. But if it was a semi-private, I got more for that 30-minute than if I had a full-on private. So I tried to always fill my schedule with semi-privates because I got $22 a half an hour versus 14 a half an hour. And I tried to do like a lot of actual marketing so that I could make sure that every day I was, 8 to 12 hours booked. And I also did, part of teaching the swim lessons was also the coaching. And so I really put a lot into the coaching because the coaching always led to lessons. So just making it all work together and I guess getting the most out of every single day.
That's awesome. I respect the hustle. From the first job you had it in you. I think that's amazing.
I've always had a lot of hustle.
So what's your current favorite software that you use in your position?
My current favorite software, well, obviously is 6sense. I mean, it's changed our world. So we love 6sense. I would say it's actually a quasi software meets services is we have a really good partnership with a company called Superside. And that is like quasi crowdsourcing of design. And so that's really helped us scale some of our digital, like advertising and campaigns and stuff. And so I've really enjoyed working a lot with them as well. We're all in on generative AI. So our own product, conversational marketing, has been just absolutely amazing. 10% of our pipeline will come from that, and it's completely automated. So I love that. I think it's really like reimagining email marketing and that channel. But in going all in on generative AI, we're also using a product called Writer to help us scale up using, writing blogs and just get more out of everything that we're doing. So that's a big theme for us. So I gave you a few.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And rounding off kind of our warm-up questions, we've talked about the good. Now let's talk a little bit about the bad. So what are some issues or problems that you face at work that really get to you?
I wouldn't say sometimes I feel Slack can be not a productivity tool, an anti-productivity tool. And it causes a lot of anxiety because I've got my work Slack channel. I've got the CMO Coffee Talk Slack channel, which I love. I'm in Pavilion. I'm in all these Slack channels. Plus I have LinkedIn and InMails there. Plus I have, my work email, and I've got Gmail, and I've got the kids stuff. And so sometimes I just wake up in a cold sweat, like, am I dropping balls? And I'm like, oh my God, where did someone sent me something? Where did it get sent? Did I reply? So I have this anxiety about feeling like I'm dropping balls or blowing someone off because and there's so much coming at you all the time.
I totally feel that. And I don't know about you, but do you ever have dreams that you got like an email and then you're like frantically searching for the email when you wake up?
Or I have that dream where it's
All
like,
the
how
time.
come our board member emailed you? Why didn't you respond? And I'm like, oh my God. Well, I have 78,000 unread emails right now. I don't know, so trying to manage it all is hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. So jumping into a little bit more about your role specifically, what does account-based management or ABM mean to you? And how can you describe it in terms of how it differs from ABX or account-based experience?
I think it's all very similar. Like, to me, I boil it all down to an ABM, ABX account-based strategy is about the entire company focused on the most winnable accounts and contacts. And so it's all about your strategy. It's all about really understanding your ideal customer profile, really great segmentation. And just, whether it's an event type of an experience, whether it's an email nurture, which we were just talking about, whether it's outbound, whether it's advertising, just ensuring it's like that right message, but also to the right accounts and contacts. Like, that so much starts there. And I see so many people just wasting their precious selling time and their precious marketing spend on accounts that are never going to convert, accounts that aren't ready to buy, accounts that aren't ideal for them. And so to me, that's the core fundamental of ABM is like great data and great insights about why that's a great account, why that's the right contact, and the when, is it the right time?
Yeah, and you discuss this approach a lot in your book, No Forms, No Spam, No Cold Calls. And you talk a lot about this different approach to account-based management, account-based experience. Why do you think this approach is so much better and kind of improves the customer experience overall?
Well, I think that, like, to me, ultimately, as a seller or a marketer, is you want to have a positive connection with a customer. And a positive connection is about adding value and being relevant. And I think it's extremely difficult to be relevant and add value to a prospect or a future customer if you don't have good insights about them. Like, why are they a good prospect for you? Is there a relevant case study? Have you made someone else like them successful? What's their tech stack? Like, what technology are they on? What are other things that they're buying that help you understand their pain or their need? What kinds of things are they researching? Have they come to your website? Like you can be this amazing tour guide in helping them through a process. And that's what I think we want to strive to do. And the only way to do that today is through great insights, because only 3% of website visitors fill out a form, 3%. So 97% are coming to your website and not filling out a form. So we need to have a way to form a relationship with that other 97%. Marketing has worked so hard to get these, accounts and contacts to the website. The reality is that a small percentage of your TAM is in market at any given time, typically anywhere from 8 to 13%. But 98% of those are probably not in your CRM. Like, that's a shame. Those are people ready and willing and wanting to have great conversations. And so we want to the book and the approach is about, let's prioritize them versus someone who's under a rock. We can study winning patterns. We can see that the messages that resonate, we can see what gets someone coming back. We can see the content that key personas are consuming. And so this just, again, allows us to be that tour guide. When I go to Rome, I don't want to bumble around. I want to have a guide that's going to show me all the best places. And I think that if you can be that for a prospect or a customer, they're going to be all over it. They're in information overload, just like I was talking about my Slack and this and that. They feel the same way. And so how do you help cut through the noise? And I think having great insights is what is just so powerful for selling and marketing teams.
Yeah, so shifting into that more insight experience mentality, what kind of actionable items would you recommend to companies that want to take this approach long term?
So I think the number one thing is like, just know who's on your website. I know it sounds so basic, but a lot of companies don't even know that other 97%, and that's almost criminal. So step one, easy, like, let's make sure that you're getting, understanding that behavior. You've paid so much to get these people to your website. I think that's really critical. I think second is just culling insights to make sure your message resonates, right? So looking at those top keywords, looking at the deals that you won, what kind of activity do they do so you can repeat those winning patterns. Next, it's about prioritization. So how do you make sure that your ideal customer profile and your in-market ideal customer profile are like who you're spending the bulk of your money, time, effort on? Because that's what efficiency is about, right? That's where you're going to get the best AS in any market conditions. You're going to get the best ASPs and the best win rates if you're really focused on those ideal customers and those in-market ideal customers. So really getting everyone organized around that focused motion, which can be challenging. If you're used to just doing a lot of activity, it can be challenging to say, no, we're going to work less accounts, but we're going to work them harder. And we're seeing that in our own data. We're seeing that it's just harder to get deals done. It takes more multi-threading, so more engaged contacts. It takes more activities per stage to progress. And so, what you can end up doing is spreading yourself too thin and working a lot of accounts, but not fully working any accounts and just losing a lot. No one likes losing a lot. And so we want to focus down, knowing we're going to have to work a lot harder to get those wins, especially today. So that would be my practical advice today.
Yeah. And with the way things are going in the industry, things get tougher as time goes on, of course. A lot of companies, kind of how you mentioned, might not see ABX as like a very attainable strategy or approach. So how practical do you think it is for a company to shift into ABX?
I guess I think it's super practical because to me, it's another layer. It's not saying, oh, we're going to like not build content for keyword. We're not going to do search engine optimization. I'm not saying don't do search engine optimization. Like, of course, you're still going to do that, right? Of course, you're still going to, do your, PPC and things like that. It's just overlaying this focus so that you get more out of every website visitor. You get more out of the content because you're tailoring the content to the content that you know works. So I think a lot of people think about it as like adding this whole other thing. And I see it as taking everything that you're doing and making sure it's so much more effective and refined. And I think today, when we have to do more with less, what's the antidote to that? Like how do we do that? And to me, it's just working a lot more smart, using those insights to power your go-to-market motion.
Absolutely. And with all that and the advice that you're giving other companies, I'd love to ask you a little bit more about some opportunities and challenges that you face personally using these market strategies so far.
I think that there's always an opportunity and a challenge around change. Old habits die hard, and especially when times are tough, it's like, oh, let's just go back to, old school 1990s marketing. So I definitely see that as, really helping people understand, why change, why now, and then the results from it. And the results really do speak for themselves. So we see, significantly better ASPs when you adopt this approach, actually 2 times higher ASPs, 30% faster cycle times and 20% better win rates. And so, that's significant from an efficiency perspective. So it's just helping to educate people on the bigger picture, and get out of just feeling productive, but not being effective, right? Just because you're doing a lot of activity doesn't mean, maybe you're just doing jumping jacks. You're not really like running anywhere, So I think that's a big part of it, is just helping people see, and manage the change.
I really enjoyed what you said there, the productivity versus efficiency. Could you elaborate a little bit more about how you like to implement that at 6sense?
Well, one thing I'm really big on is what I call boom stats, because if you can have like too many KPIs and then you're trying to like manage to all of them. So I try to like boil everything up into, here's the 1 or 2 stats that if we hit that stat, that means we did all these other things right. So here's an example. A couple of years ago, we decided we were going to have a certification program, actually around the book. It was called the Next Gen Marketing Certification. And so the boom stat, we had nothing. We didn't have any, we had no materials, nothing. So the boom stat was, by the end of the quarter, 1 person certified. And not that the end goal was to only have 1 person, but rather than say, build a certification, do this, do that. It was, if we have 1 successful person through the program, we've built it, we've launched it, we've marketed it, and so it's kind of like, let's just get that 1. And then, then the next quarter, it's, get 5,000 or whatever. But, so just sort of starting with things that it's like, that's the significant thing, that we did all of this to get to that boom stat. I'm trying to, another one is around customer marketing. I mean, we do all of these different programs to help our customers adopt 6sense, thrive on 6sense, connect with other customers of 6sense. Like, how do we measure all of that? And so what we do is we say, well, how many of our customers have engaged in the last quarter? And we want over 90% of our customers to be engaging in our programs, right? Showing up. Like, a lot is just getting them to show. If no one's showing up when we release new product, that's a problem. If no one's showing up to network with their peers, that's a problem. And so that helps the team really prioritize, we've got to do things that are going to get our customers out to and showing up and engaging with us. So that's their boom stat. And that, all of the things kind of bubble up into getting that boom stat up.
I love that. I think a lot of people can get really wrapped up in numbers. So I think it's great that you're really implementing the prioritization of like very strong, very productive and impactful stats when it comes to your KPIs or your boom stats.
Mm-hmm.
So as we're hitting kind of the halfway point of the year, I think it's a great time to do some reflection. So I'd love to learn a little bit about some lessons that you may have learned last year and some things you're hoping to implement or even avoid by the end of this year.
So, for me, I'm all about this notion of an infinite game, which is a Simon Sinek, I think, book or TED Talk or something. Someone told me about it and then I just looked it up. So I never read the book or anything, but I've sort of adopted that mindset, and the philosophy behind it that I understand is we tend to do a lot of sports analogies in business, thinking that we're going to win and then the season's over, we're done. And it's actually never done. We're never done. You never outright win. At times you're ahead and maybe at times you're behind, but you have to just keep playing. And so I started thinking about that, what makes me want to play? And how do I make sure that I'm motivated to knowing that I'm going to have to just keep every day getting up and playing hard. And so, just trying to really think about that and do some reflection on myself. And I talked about teaching swim lessons. I loved teaching swim lessons. It was my favorite job ever. I loved seeing a kid who was afraid of the water by the end of the summer, be diving off the block and like doing a few strokes of butterfly, right? It's really, really rewarding. And so to me, like a big part of why I want to play is to see people do things that they never dreamed they could do. And so that's motivating. And, I love seeing the world and like, especially through like more local eyes. So I love like being able to, work with our team in London or work with our team in India. So those are really rewarding things. So just really trying to think about that, because you're never going to win. You're just going to either be ahead or behind. And so how do I keep that energy and momentum up for myself, but also for the team?
Absolutely. And to close it out with this question, to kind of just instill that positivity and that go-get attitude for anybody who's watching, with buyers being more selective, more picky choosy these days about different things that they're researching or clicking on or filling out forms such as that. How would you say marketing leaders should handle that kind of pressure of delivering not only practical value, but practical value that the consumer can see and feel? What kind of strategies would you recommend?
Yeah, I think that anytime the market changes, like your job in marketing, the market is the most important part of the job. So anytime there's a shift in the market, you have to really reevaluate, where are our buyers at? And you might have had tons in market that aren't now, right? Because there was some sort of shift, or maybe your ICP has changed. So I think really, re-looking at your market and then saying, are we meeting the market at the right place? Like, are we talking about a relevant problem today, given this change in market? Are we really zoning in on the right like journey, given this change in the market? So I think that's just really the most important thing, is like making sure you could have a great product, but if the market doesn't understand it, or if it's not in tune with what the market needs right now, you're not going to sell the product. And so just keeping that always top of mind, and your role as the voice of the market.
Amazing. So that wraps up our professional spotlight with Latané Conant, CMO of 6sense. For more industry insights, content, and conversations with other business leaders, check out our blog at learn.g2.com/tag/industry-insights. See you next time, and thank you again, Latané.
Thank you, and thanks, G2.